Welcome back to the show. I am your host, Katie Romagnolo, and we are live here on YouTube every Tuesday at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, answering your questions. These are direct from our amazing, wonderful, magical human listeners. And today we've got another great one. This was from Laura, and it's all about, does the moon influence our energy? Does it help us gain energy? And I want to dive deep into the details around how this works, why this works, and give you the specific times in which you are going to use lunar energy to actually create more momentum in your life, because there's certain things you want to be doing during energizing phases. So if you are catching me here live, let me know in the comments. I love interacting with you. If you're coming up with questions as I'm going into these details today, let me know as well, because I absolutely love to get specific into what's going on in your life and making this super valuable for your life and business. So, this is really cool today because we are actually sitting in the exact moon phase that I would recommend as a momentum building phase, the one where you are going to be more energized. But there is an exception to this. There are some things that I want to help you watch out for, so that if you're sitting here watching right now and you're catching this when we are actually live in this momentum phase of first quarter energy, and you're feeling like, I don't have any energy, I don't know what's going on in my life, I'm just in this slow, sort of stuck state. I'm going to explain why as well, because this is still working for you. I love to remind people that whether you're aware of moon phases, you're into it, you think it's like, what the hell? I don't know why on earth I'd be into moon phases. It doesn't matter your mindset around it. This stuff is actually impacting your life. It's impacting the people around you. And when you can start to pick up on the cues of what to do, what not to do, and the subtleties, the gray zone, I call it, in between the main phases, it's like having this crystal ball. You'll be able to not only tell the future of your business, but anticipate how you're going to feel as you move through certain thresholds and growth points within your life and relationships. So, today I mentioned we are actually sitting in that first quarter energy, and this is all about the moon actually gaining light in the sky. So, I want to go back to the basics here on why this is really important. The moon itself orbits around the earth, and we get this shape in the sky. Everybody loves the full moon. Whether you're into moon phases or not, you'll notice this really cool light in the sky. We as humans seem to be really captivated by this. And there is a reason for this. Remember that natural draw, whether you know this is working or not. Now, the moon phases itself, we start off in a really sort of dark period. It's the gestation period, the time where you may feel like you really want to retreat into self. And that is during our new moon phase. It's still part of this momentum building energy. So, the way that you can look at this is when you look into the sky. If you're starting to see just a little bit of a sliver of light towards the right, then you're going to be noticing there's momentum building in your life. Now, there's specific ways that you're going to do this. I kind of use the moon like a bat symbol. It's where you look up into the sky and you know exactly what's going on because of this really cool, unique light that has been switched on. So, what does the moon actually do for us? Have you ever had that feeling where you're really expansive? It's one of those times where you feel like you're on top of the world. You're in flow. Maybe everything is just going right. You feel like you can kind of skip from one thing to the next, and the momentum is going, and everything that you touch seems to work. Sometimes we have long stretches in time in which we feel expansive and like we are growing our energy. Other times it might be just blips, moments in time where you notice that you felt really open to new things, really open to trying maybe something that you wouldn't have before. This is the time period in which we are actually having this opening up of our energy that's occurring. And we are primarily made of water. Now, the moon itself really influences how water moves here on Earth. We get this effect on the Earth itself that happens with the lunar energy. And it's kind of like this pull and this pulse, this magnetic effect that is happening. And during those times of expansion, we've got this sort of occurring to our energy, to the water itself. Now, being made mostly of water, I personally have had incredible effects on really sensing when these expansive, pull, energizing times are. Now, there's other times in which we're having this contraction that's occurring to the water. The tides, right? The moon is responsible for how our ocean tides are actually having this influx. And we use this very specifically in order to navigate ways of the water, in order to decide when fishermen are having the most productive times. You can use this in many other areas of your life as well. You don't have to be a fisherman. But it's just the actual physical effects that we start to see. We can look at water and notice the effects of the moon's energy in that either expansion or contraction. So let's move this into a little bit of a different language. When we think about expansion in our lives, this is momentum. So there's two very specific times in which you're going to notice that energy wanting to expand you. And we are sitting right now in this particular energy. So, when you think about doing things that maybe you haven't done before that expand you out of the things that have been, becoming a comfort zone sometimes, what tends to happen? I want you to think back to a time in your life when you felt expansion and you were doing something that was different than you'd done before. And because truly, that is the only way that we can get new results. There's one thing that tends to really pop up during this phase, and this is the thing that I want to encourage you to really watch out for because it is the number one thing that entrepreneurs will all of a sudden face and take us back 10 steps. And oftentimes it can feel a little bit confusing because, well, I'm following moon phases. I am knowing that this is a momentum phase. Why am I getting a dead don't pass go? There's a reason. Remember stepping out of that comfort zone. There's something that pops up that says to us, this is outside of our energy. This is the logical part of who we are, the ego, the imposter syndrome, the part of you that has had past experiences that didn't go as planned, the part of you that has tried something maybe before that felt similar and it didn't work. That part of us tends to pop up in this first quarter moon phase. We are in a momentum phase, but all of a sudden it's like this pops in all of a sudden. The reason for this is because as we approach something new in our lives, as we even know that we are about to do something that feels really exciting, that feels like it's going to have some results, that human part of us, that physical experience, the 3D world tends to put on the brakes. It's not because the thing's not going to happen. It's not because you don't deserve the thing happening. And it's not because you aren't meant to expand. It's happening because there is something that needs to resolve in order to move from where you are currently sitting and the results that you're currently receiving and experiencing in your life or business, and the difference in what is that outside of that. Who are you? What do you need to be? Who do you need to embody? What parts of you need to activate? Sometimes, what parts of you need to be let go of, old mindsets, limiting beliefs. What needs to actually happen to shift into that new stage? So, this is the time period in which I'm always saying to clients if you're in the magic school and you are using these phases to actively grow your business, then you'll hear me say, first quarter phase is all about the saying yes. It is cultivating energy from the week before. The way that you have been thinking, the things that you have been putting into your subconscious, whether you know it or not, are planting seeds for this week. So, going back and checking, okay, what was it that I was actually focused on last week? Because this is what's going to produce your results for this week. Again, we're talking about new moon and first quarter moon energy specifically. This is 2 weeks of your month, every month that you are going to find momentum building energy. So then hitting that point again in which you feel like, I don't know if this is the thing for me. Are you an entrepreneur that has ever felt like, I can't do this thing because I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough resources. I've got too much on the go. I've got so much invested in this. I don't want to fail. Those are the thoughts for first quarter moon. And it's because it is pulling to the surface everything that you need to resolve in order to move into the phase, into the results that you actually want. So, the key to moving through this, the key to actually obtaining momentum during this phase, to actually receive the energizing momentum that wants to be there for you. Remember the expansion that we're feeling that wants to call us into a new era, into a new phase. The key to actually grounding that into your existence, to actually receiving the manifestation, the benefit, the results, the sales, whatever it is that you're cultivating, the key to it is when you meet that threshold, all of a sudden, where you feel like you're talking yourself out of something, where if you look past the reasons that are coming up to somebody else in the observer role to you at the moment, it would probably feel like an excuse. Okay. This could sound like you've got a networking opportunity to go to this week and you've been invited to go. Maybe it's a free event. So it really only costs you your time and energy to show up. But it's a really good thing to make some new connections. This is the time period for new connections that will help to move you forward. And instead, somehow you forget that it's on that day because you don't put it in your calendar. And 15 minutes into it, you think, oh, shoot, I'm supposed to be on this call right now, and you're not ready. So therefore, you don't jump on the call. These are the little ways that self-sabotage tend to show up in our lives. The times where and I'm quotation marking forget here because sometimes the things that we say that we forget are really the things that we're avoiding for very either deep reasons or unknown reasons that we haven't yet been able to see. There was a time in my life when I was so good at getting out of every networking event there was. As a top producing real estate broker, there was a lot of ways that I was, should have been, and I'm going to really use should have been to grow my business, connecting with many other people. But I had a lot of social anxiety at that time in my life that people didn't know about. So anytime I was invited to a big event where there would be other top producing agents there, and I'd be mixing and mingling with some of the really top professionals in the country, I started to suddenly feel like I don't know if I'm good enough to be there. On paper, yeah, sure. It made sense. I had done the number of deals. I was in the category. I was in a top percentage of those who were working in my industry. But inside, I had never dealt with all of the things that had happened in my childhood. All of the times when I was this little girl who couldn't do anything right, when I was told that she wasn't going to amount to anything. Growing up in a really tough neighborhood where I went to one of the worst rated high schools in my area, there wasn't a lot of feeling of expansion. It was all contraction back then. It was all make sure that you are in survival mode because there was a lot of dangerous situations. I didn't get the support at home that I needed to navigate those really dangerous situations in a school that was full of drugs and alcohol and gang activities. I didn't get what I needed, but nobody knew what I needed because I openly didn't express what was going on inside of me. Instead, I learned to show up, pretend everything was okay, and just survive each moment that I was in. But how that internalized for me as a professional in my later years as an adult was that I was actually subconsciously terrified of my peers. And my peers got transferred into, instead of the high school students that I was trying to avoid to make sure that I was staying safe, it transferred into my adult years into the other real estate agents that were in my industry, that were also top producers. And I didn't realize this consciously at the time that I actually was afraid. I was in survival mode. My body was saying no to things that would be really good for me to grow my business because I had an old tether, this tie that kept me really stuck, really contracted, even during times of momentum phases. It really kept me stuck because I needed to actually allow it to surface. The feeling would come through panic attacks. The feeling would come through really sweaty palms. The feeling would come through avoiding everything that I could in order to not be there. But in avoiding what was actually coming up, I was allowing myself to only go so far. I was hitting a threshold that I would absolutely never cross, never gain anything additional to unless I had dealt with, what was going on internally each time I had the opportunity to grow outside of that comfort zone. So, using moon phases actually gives you this amazing framework to be able to identify, to know when this is coming forward. So, instead of it being, oh my goodness, I'm all over the place, I'm feeling this way, then I'm feeling this way, and I'm up and then I'm down, it gives you a systematic approach to knowing when expansion is occurring for you, when energy is growing for you, and when it is that you're actually being encouraged to contract in and to look at where is there some adjustments that are required for you at this time. Maybe they're mental adjustments that are going on in terms of emotional blocks. Maybe they are physical blocks that are standing in your way and decisions that need to happen. That goes on during our two other phases that occur after this. But I really want you to get laser focused into where we are today. And if you're not feeling momentum in your life, if you're not feeling expansion, if you're not feeling like you can move ahead into new areas, that things are working for you, that you're feeling motivated and lit up, if that is not you right now, and we're currently sitting in this energy and you're tuning in today, then I want you to consider, what are the exact thoughts that are coming up at this time? What are showing up as the reasons? And dive deeper into them to see how they could be excuses keeping you small, keeping you stuck in the same cycle of maybe what has worked to a certain degree, or sometimes what hasn't worked at all. Because we can get really stuck in the cycle of, I know this feeling. I know that I had social anxiety my entire life. I knew that feeling intimately. I knew when it was coming. I knew what would trigger it. I knew what I was going to do when it happened. And my whole life was formulated off of what not to do in order to not have a panic attack. It wasn't very productive. It didn't help me grow into the person that I came here to be. And I wasn't able to do what I truly feel called to do. It stopped me time and time again. So, sitting in this week, if you're feeling like that, the first thing to do is actually track that that's what's going on during this time. Look at how it's a problem for you. If you were to be invited to a networking event and you decided that you weren't going to go, or you forgot and something came up, whatever it was that didn't allow you to show up in that energy, then ask yourself, how is this a problem? How is going to this social networking event a problem for me? If I would have done that back then, I would have said to myself, well, I am going to feel a certain way. I might have some sort of panic attack or issue that goes on. I might feel a certain way physically, and I don't want to experience that. Okay, well, how is it a problem for you if you have a panic attack? And then keep going deeper and deeper into that to try and surface what it is that's going on. For me, it was, at the end of it, I didn't feel good enough to be there. I didn't feel like I was able to live up to the standard of all of the amazing other professionals in my industry that I really looked up to. I had put them on a pedestal that said, you are better than me. And the reason why is because I'm a scared little girl that never dealt with all of her stuff. Nobody wants to say those words out loud to identify to another person. I don't feel good enough to do this. And here's why: because the actual being, the feeling of not being good enough, stops us from telling other people that we don't feel good enough because of the fear of judgment. There is not a time in history where human beings have not faced this. This energy is actually here to propel us forward. It's here to provide contrast to the things that we really want. It's not to stop you from being who you're meant to be and expanding the ideas and having the abundance and success that you're meant to have. It's not meant to stop you. It's meant to actually grow who you are into a level of understanding that then connects with others who are going through that same thing, who then will need you along their journey. So you are shifting your vibration every time you are allowing yourself to get into expansion with momentum phases like this first quarter. And then you are actually catapulting those results by facing the thing that will come up. Now, some momentum phases, you may have a little bit more that surfaces because you may be working on something that's really big. It feels really big to you. It feels like a new thing that has a lot of promise. And then the nerves, right? That pitter patter of the heart can start to pop in. really pay attention to those times when you're feeling that heart rate elevate and noticing what is the decision that you make when that happens. Do you stop yourself from going on camera, from doing videos, from doing maybe that podcast that you would love to do? Do you stop yourself from networking and connecting with others? Do you stop yourself when you move into a sales role in your business? Notice the times right now this week, track it, where you are actually stopping yourself from having everything that you truly want. You're not doing it intentionally. There's something that goes on in our subconscious during this time that wants to surface for your benefit and resolution. Because right after this, we're at that glorious full moon phase where the moon is at its brightest, where the moon is at its climax of energy. And during that time is when we are at our fullest expression. So if we have things that are holding us back that have surfaced and we push them down, which causes energy leaks, which is exactly why momentum is not felt, why energy is not felt during this phase, because something is being pushed down. And it's like squeezing out like a colander out of every possible hole that there is. And it's causing these leaks. The pushing down causes the lack of energy in this time. If that's happening, notice what's coming up so that when you actually can make those connections and move through what's going on. And we've got tons of ways to do that. So Moon Logic Magic School is dedicated to entrepreneurs to move through these cycles so that you can actually get the resources that are needed at exact specific time periods. We chart it all out for you there so you know what it is that's going to help you move through energy blocks or limiting beliefs that are happening. Notice what's coming up first so that the next time we move through this cycle, because we're going to go through this every single month, you will be in an opportunity to actually expand fully into that climax of energy to realize and celebrate the yeses turning into things that are actually really good in your life instead of them passing by. This is the phase where things will show up for you for no coincidence. You planted that seed energetically along the way. So something shows up, it lights you up this week, and then it feels like, I don't know how to do that. I don't know if I'm qualified, if I'm good enough for that. I think I need another course or another resource or this or that. When those thoughts start to come up after that initial split second of this is really cool and I'm excited, then start to look at what's going wrong. Where's the imposter showing up? Because that thing is meant for you to say yes to. It's meant to move you into a direction that wants to fulfill what you are cultivating in your energy. So this month on our Etsy store, I have for Moon Logic Creations, go ahead and check us out in the description links because you have a custom journal that is going to help you with charting your energy through these moon phases. So your February moon journal is there, that's available now. And it is this beautiful downloadable PDF, so you can grab it, instant access to it. And what you're going to do is follow the prompts and the information. It's going to guide you through what's the momentum phase, what is the modification phase. And you're going to go through all of the promptings. And it's very simple and easy as well to get you those connections so that at the end of the month, you're going to be able to go back to see which phase you really thrive in. Where is it that you are getting the most activity? Are you noticing that your energy is higher or lower during certain times? Your sleep may be affected during certain times, your motivation, your creativity. It's going to give you the ways to chart that so that you can go back and decide, ooh, I know how to use this phase in my life. So go ahead and check us out at the Etsy store. There's going to be tons of other resources popping in there for you. So make sure to follow along and enjoy the store and all of the magical creations that are popping into there. Be sure to grab your free moon calendar also in the link in the descriptions here, because this is going to give you each and every week to follow what's going on. You're going to get mantras so that you know what to focus on and when it's momentum, when it flips into modification, and what that means not to do as well, so that your energy can continue to flow with the stream rather than swimming upstream during the opposite times when we don't realize that we're doing that. That's when our results tend to stall, moving through those pieces. So, if you are loving today's information, if there's something that you found of value, give me a thumbs up. I am so grateful for everybody who shows up on these amazing live streams. And I know that in the future, as we start to get more and more questions here that are popping in, I've got a whole bunch of them that are lined up for the next couple of weeks. Remember to tune back in, subscribe, and hit that bell so that you get the notifications of new videos because each week is a different question. And there may be questions that are being answered that you didn't even think to ask, but might connect with exactly where you are in your personal growth and your journey of your life and your business. Check out Moon Logic Magic School as well if you are curious about diving a little bit deeper into knowing exactly what to do and what not to do. And I will see you all next week.